Good evening, folks. Ken Hovind here and the crew at Dinosaur Adventureland in Lenox, Alabama, August 16th. Is the debate I did today going to get posted today or tomorrow? Or?
Probably this evening.
Probably this evening. Okay, good. I love those that do any. I can do 5 debates a day. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. Love it. Bring them on. Anyway, so we have 2 broadcasts for tonight, or for August 16th. We're the folks who believe the Bible is literally true and scientifically accurate, and the evolution theory is the dumbest and most dangerous religion in the history of the world. Come on down, bring a group to our Dinosaur Adventureland. Mentioned we got the 650 Bergman scooter. Sits here all the time because we're living on a dirt road. I don't like driving on a dirt road, and I just don't have time to drive anymore. It's only got 6,400 miles. So if you want to buy that and help us get our ministry, over the summer, we got a little behind on our American Express, and we need some money. So that's why we're selling both of them. We have a 2010 650 scooter and a 2003, nearly identical, with what's it got, 11,000 miles on it?
11,000.
11,000. So you want to get a his and hers scooter that'll go really, really, really fast. Make us an offer. We'd like to get some money to get out of debt. You can help us and get a really cool machine, and plus we'd get a new parking spot for a golf cart to plug it in. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, let's see. Teachers, bring your students for overnight camping, or just come on down for a visit, or anybody just come visit. We're having a blast around here. Lots of projects, especially plumbing. Gee, we got so many things, Dita. You getting it caught up on that plumbing down there, brother? For the Rich?
That one spot, roughed it in.
Okay, for good. So then Jeff's is next, and then the Nick's, and then the. But I got plans to put in 4 drinking fountains I need to put around the camp.
What do you need?
It's never ending. So come on down, help us out here, Dinosaur Adventureland. 65 baptized so far. Oh, I was supposed to do one more today, and I got tied up. We'll get it tomorrow. Okay, sounds good. If you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, tell your friends to do that, or join our 777 club and tell their friends about us. And you can get copies of our books and spread them around. Make copies of our videos. One guy in Dallas has the record. I think he's made 43,000 copies of our videos and given them out. It's unreal. Has he contacted you, Julie, to tell you how many? He calls in once in a while to tell the total, how many he's made. Has he contacted you, the guy in Dallas?
No, he hasn't.
I think it's 43,000 copies. Please do. Don't sell them, though. That's we got a lot of work in that. Okay.
Wow, that's awesome, though.
Yeah. Want to invest in your public school kids for the summer? Please get our summer school kit. Now, Rachel has been promoting, unknowingly, promoting my book. Are you being brainwashed by your science book? Rachel, I'm the best friend you've got. You don't even know it, but I am. Okay, I want to help you. You are giving your background on this video talking about Creation Magazine's terrible science. And you're going to give your background saying how wonderful, interesting eyeshadow, by the way, you're going to give your background telling how smart you are and why everybody should listen to you because you went to Warwick University in London. And as you give your background, you explain about how it's one of the top universities. That's wonderful. And they only accept 14% of the applicants. That's wonderful. And how smart you are about biology and evolution and how dumb I am because I have an unaccredited degree. And so sure, you're going to explain tonight how smart you are about biology and why everybody should listen to you. And then I'm going to let you go ahead and give your background. It's kind of like Mr. Nelson. Aaron Ra puts himself off as some kind of world's expert, you know. I don't know if he even finished his associate's degree. He went 2 years to college in Dallas. That's it. Not that that means anything. It's just that's what they always use on me. Unaccredited degree. Okay. Rachel, you studied this evolution and biology for 1 year and then transferred to finance, didn't you? Let's go ahead and let you say it for yourself.
I want to make sure that I'm talking about the ones that I actually know what I'm talking about in, if that makes sense. Like, there would be no point in me covering an article they've done on, like, astrophysics, because I just don't have the knowledge to talk about it and know too well if what they're saying is legitimate or not. I don't have much of a knowledge in physics past GCSE level, so it's not my strongest point, whereas things like biology and psychology, it's what I know. I know quite a lot of you are new to my channel, which is why I don't do this in every video, but before I kind of get into the actual like sciencey stuff we're talking about today, because this is a lot more fact-based and opinion-based today. Before that, I want to give you a little bit of background about myself, So
she's going to teach us all about biology, and we should listen to her about the complexity of life, living cells coming from non-living matter. You'll see in a minute. I'm going to do nothing, mostly nothing, but play some video clips that I think will surprise you tonight. Please spread this one around, okay?
You know that I'm not just some 16-year-old sitting in their parents' like living room talking about, I don't know, whatever. If you want to skip past this little like introduction to me, you can do. I'll pop a timestamp here, and you can skip to that, to where we're actually talking about the magazine. So I actually started off studying one course at university, which was biomedical science, which is basically like human biology and biochemistry. And I switched degrees to do a...
After 1 year, I decided to go, postgrad medicine wasn't what I wanted to do. So after 1 year of Warwick studying biology, she switched to finance, which is okay.
A BSc in management, which was a business degree, which I know sounds like a little bit of a DOS to some people. It sounds like a bit of like easy degree, but it wasn't. It was a very science heavy degree from a very good university. The whole kind of point of the business degree that I did at Warwick was to kind of take science and apply it to a real life practical business situation. So like I say, it wasn't just like, ooh, let's talk about like what it means to be an entrepreneur, and let's talk about what it means to be a leader, and let's all sit down and talk about it was none of that kind of stuff. Like I say, it was very much an applied science. So of course
So her business degree was very much an applied science.
I had to do some really useful modules that I still use today, like accounting and finance. I had to do stuff like ops management, marketing, e-businesses and value chains. I had to do modules on equality and diversity, on the ethics of business and morality, and the philosophy.
So you're an expert on the ethics of morality. I will refrain comment.
Of business and stuff like that. I had to do this horrible stats module called something like quantitative analysis for business management or something. It was horrible. It was
a horrible course on statistics. Okay, let's let Rachel explain some more of why we should listen to her as the world's expert on biology and the origin of life.
Again, it's a blatant misunderstanding of what the whole process of evolution is. For one thing, there's no conscious effort behind evolution. It's not a definite progression in one way or another to lose or gain things. There's no...
Didn't you play that last night?
No ultimate goal.
Yeah, I played this last night.
It's just a series of changes.
I'm going to go on from here.
Sometimes random mutations happen, and sometimes those mutations result in genes being expressed differently. And every so often, those gene expressions are useful to an organism in the environment that it's living, and those organisms will be more likely to survive to have offspring, which will have that same mutation passed on to them, and over generations those genes become dominant. That's all it is. It's not gaining or losing anything. There's no conscious actor behind it. There's no one pushing things in a certain direction. There's not even like a certain direction that things are going in where we always lose or gain something. It's just a series of events. And so reading this sarcastic comment in the book and reading a lot of the comments from Kent's fans on my last few videos, I've kind of become aware that Kent Hovind and his fans don't understand the basics of how evolution happens, which is why I want to take a few moments at the beginning of this video to kind of jump into the science, go way back to basics, explain the process of evolution by natural selection as simply as possible, right down to the cellular level. This is complicated stuff. I can't cover every detail. There's a hell of a lot more here that I'm not covering. I'm basically covering this to like maybe an A-level biology standard, but there's a hell of a lot more I could talk about. We could go into more of the details about how these events like transcription, translation and everything actually happen. We could talk about that in more detail, but for simplicity's sake, I don't want to jump ahead too far and get into that kind of deep level just yet, because I think we need to explain the basics first. And so this is going to be a kind of oversimplified basic explanation of how mutations arise and what DNA is and how all this influences or leads to evolution by natural selection. Inside the nucleus of our cells and the cells of all living things, there are these little molecules called nucleotides. Nucleotides are the organic monomers that make up DNA and RNA. Nucleotides are made up of a phosphate group, a 5-carbon sugar, or a pentose sugar, some people call it, and a nitrogen-based base. In DNA, this base can either be thymine, adenine, guanine, or cytosine. For simplicity's sake, I'm leaving out the differences with RNA for now, but basically, The DNA of all living things is made up of nucleotides with these 4 bases. It doesn't matter if it's a single cell, or a plant cell, or a fish, or a complex mammal. Everything is made up of these 4 basic monomers. The basis for all living things is fundamentally the same. And what I want you to remember now is that these monomers aren't in themselves living, which means that the basis for all living things is a non-living thing. When people say, how can you get a living thing from non-living? We are all made up of non-living things. The boundary between living and non-living is kind of complicated and cloudy and messy, but again, that's a topic for a whole other video. So the phosphate group of one nucleotide will form a covalent bond with the sugar group of another nucleotide, and so this ends up forming a big long string of nucleotides. Base pairs that aren't attached to anything will then usually form hydrogen bonds with the other base pairs of other nucleotides, and then they, as they match up, kind of like form the covalent bonds with the ones next to them, and you end up with these 2 strands of nucleotides attached at the sides by covalent bonds, in the middle by hydrogen bonds. These bases kind of pair up, so guanine always bonds with cytosine and thymine always bonds with adenine. These 2 connected strands of nucleotides are DNA. And DNA can be hundreds or thousands or millions of nucleotides long. Within this millions long chain, stretches of these nucleotides can have specific functions, usually to do with building proteins, but not always. And these specific kind of areas of the chain are called genes. While it's easy to make a claim like there's a gene for blue eyes, for example, the gene itself isn't creating an entire blue eye.
Okay, you can listen to this at your own leisure. It's called Kent Hovind versus Basic Biology, Part 3. And one of her objections a few days ago was that I did not answer this one because I was afraid of all the deep biology in this one, okay? Now, I'd like to introduce you to somebody else here. Rachel, James Tour has way more than 1 year of college biology from Rice University. Let's explain his background. I think you'll enjoy this.
I got my PhD in the field of organic chemistry, postdoc at Stanford University. Joined the group of a man who was going to win a Nobel Prize in chemistry. Voted one of the top 50 most influential minds in the world. I was a visiting scholar at Harvard University. I've spoken at every major university in this country, have over 650 research publications, voted the R&D magazine Scientist of the Year. I'm in the National Academy of Inventors. I'm a member of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, over 120 patents. Started 7 or 8 companies. We work in areas that range from medicine to material science to electronics, computer memory, medical devices. We work across a broad range of areas. But more than any of that, what means the most to me is that I'm a Jew who believes that Jesus is the Messiah. I grew up just outside of New York City. I thought everybody was Jewish. I didn't even know that there was anything else. I had no particular interest in that, other than when all my friends were getting bar mitzvahed or bat mitzvahed, and then I would attend, of course, every week. There was never really any excitement for me. I remember once I even tried to talk to a rabbi. He just brushed me off. There was very little explanation for me. I remember when I went to college, I started meeting a number of people that said that they were born-again Christians, which was sort of an odd term. What's born again? What do you mean, born again? One person saw me in the laundry room. He said, "Do you mind if I give you an illustration of the gospel?" And I remember we sat there and he actually started to draw a picture. A cliff with a man on one side, and he drew a little man, and then another cliff with God on the other side, and a big chasm in between that he labeled with sin. And I looked at him, I said, "I'm not a sinner. I've never killed anyone. I'd never robbed a bank. How could I be a sinner?" And he had me read a verse from the Bible. "For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God." In modern Judaism, we never really talked about sin. I don't remember ever talking about sin in my home. So he turned to another passage. Jesus said, "I say to you that everyone who looks upon a woman with lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Pow! I felt just as if I had been punched right in the chest. Here I was, new in college. I didn't think anybody knew. I would pick up these magazines and I became addicted to pornography. It was just through those magazines. And all of a sudden, something that's written in the Bible, somebody who lived 2,000 years ago is calling me out on it. And I felt immediately convicted. And that now I realized I was a sinner. When I read in the scriptures what sin is, then I knew I was a sinner. How am I going to get to God? We Jews know this better than anyone else. Without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness of sin. This description in Isaiah 53 of how he will bear upon himself my sin, the things that I had done, and this was him. This was the man that took this upon himself on the cross. The perfect God comes and gives himself for us. He is the one that gives himself for us. I started to realize how Jewish the New Testament is. This book is so Jewish. The New Testament is so Jewish. It's all around Jewish people. And then on November 7th, 1977, I was all alone in my room. The realization that Yeshua is the one who died on the cross. And I said, Lord, I am a sinner. Please forgive me. Come into my life. And then all of a sudden, someone was in my room. And I opened my eyes. I was on my knees. I opened my eyes. Who's in my room? That man, Jesus Christ, stood in my room. This amazing sense of God. Jesus was in my room and I wasn't scared. All I started doing was just weeping. The presence was so glorious because he was there in my room on that day. And I didn't want to get up. And this amazing sense of forgiveness just started to come upon me. That was him. Finally, I got up. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to tell. Here's this Jewish kid from New York City. What am I going to say? My cousins were shocked. How could you do that? You're Jewish. Telling my mother how I had invited Jesus into my life. She didn't say much. She was weeping. She told my father they weren't happy at all. And she said, I don't blame them for killing Jesus after the things that he said. Who is he to come against these religious leaders that have dedicated their lives to helping people and to tell them that they are whitewashed tombs? Who is he, this young man in his 30s, to say this to these scholars? He got what he deserved. And my mother's a very deep, pensive, careful reader. She read from Genesis right on through the Tanakh, the whole thing. When she got done, I said, what did you think? She said, God warned us over and over again. He warned us. When my daughter was about 15, my mother and father came to visit us. At one point, my mother went into her room for several hours. She came out. She said, quite a young girl you have. She talked to me for a long time. She started reading the Bible again, both the Old and the New Testament. One day, not long after that, she called me on the phone at the age of 72. She said, Jimmy, you wouldn't believe what happened. I said, what happened? She said, I was just reading. And it hit me. It hit me. The way he gave his life. I believe it now. Jesus is the Son of God.
One more clip from James Tour. You think things are simple to make life on... I would have to strongly disagree. The origin of life. Found. The origin of life. Oh, really? Okay.
The life we had on Earth must have spontaneously generated itself.
Scientists have reason to think that the first living cells on Earth came about through a natural process called chemical evolution. first living from chemical evolution. Did life really spontaneously generate itself from chemicals? Has science shown this? We tracked down James Tour, one of the world's leading experts in synthetic organic chemistry, to find out.
All of these little pictures of molecules coming together to form the first cell are fallacious, are ridiculous. The origin of life community has not been honest. They will write in their very papers, they will see some small phenomena and extrapolate what this means in the context of origin of life. And then they will work with the press, and the press will extrapolate it all the more. And you get many, many people deceived.
Including you, Rachel. You've been deceived by this kind of stuff. I'm sorry, I'm here to help. Listen to James now. He's got a real degree in this topic, and he's got, anyway, he knows what he's talking about.
Thinking that life has been all but made, all of this is a lie.
Scientist Craig Venter creates life for the first time in a laboratory.
We're here today to announce the first synthetic cell.
We haven't created life, nowhere close. What they did is they took a cell. They took the genome out of that cell. They manufactured a genome that's similar to it, and they put it in. That is akin to taking an engine out of a Ford and putting it into a Buick and then saying, look, I created automobiles. No, you just took one piece, and it's not even the engine, it's just the computer control box. You took out of one car and you put it in another car. That's what it was like. But the design of the computer control box you got from other cells.
Other scientists say they've been able to create protocells in the lab that are the stepping stones to the first life.
I can mix some chemicals together in a test tube in my lab, and these chemicals will start to self-associate to form larger and larger structures. The protocell moves as a metabolism. It could use energy and moves around.
Protocells are a bunch of nonsense. That is like a proto-turkey. I take 20 pounds of sliced turkey meat from a delicatessen. I throw that into a pot. I add some turkey broth. I warm that up, and I throw in some feathers, and I say, that's a proto-turkey. Yeah, there's no order to it, but you know, if you wait long enough, a turkey will come gobbling out. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? That's precisely what origin of life researchers have done when they make a protocell.
Wait a second. Haven't we been taught with hundreds of millions of years anything is possible?
Time is actually the enemy. You let these chemicals that have been made sit around. They show the degradation in a period of weeks. Weeks is the twinkling of an eye when it comes to prebiotic timescales. The chemicals decompose. So to think that the molecules could be made and sit there waiting for other molecules to come in, it doesn't happen. Organic chemistry doesn't work that way.
Well, if life didn't spontaneously generate on Earth, what about scientists who believe that life must have come here from outer space?
Whether you want to have it originate from Earth or from some other planet, you have to have the origin of life. You have to have the origin of that first cell. How does that happen? We have no idea.
So with all the advances in scientific research and the study of life, why can't we figure this out?
With all of origin of life research going on, the problem is becoming harder all the time, not easier. And the reason it's become harder is because we understand more about the complexity of a cell.
To help explain the complexity of living cells, we turn to molecular biologist Douglas Axe.
To get an idea of the complexity of a living cell, think of a factory with thousands of pieces of machinery all working together to do some coordinated task. A cell is actually far more complicated than that factory because factories don't maintain themselves. People have to maintain factories, and factories certainly don't make new factories. Whereas with a living cell, all the parts that wear out are automatically remanufactured within the cell. Not only that, the cell is manufacturing a new cell as well. Human-made factories don't even come close.
For a living cell to exist and perform such complex tasks, it takes some very detailed instructions, which are chemically encoded in our DNA.
If you have a string of nucleic acids like DNA or RNA has, you have to have a precise sequence. because that translates to what proteins are needed to build the organism. That's called the information code.
But where did all that information, these detailed instructions, come from to build the first cell?
We don't have a tool to assess that within chemistry.
Laboratory chemistry may not, but Stephen Meyer is convinced origin science does have the tools.
Is there anything we know of that does have the causal power, the ability to generate new information, and therefore could explain the origin of the first cell? And I think there is, and that's the idea of intelligent design.
Intelligent design is defined as the theory that certain features of the natural world are best explained by an intelligent cause, not an undirected process.
Because what we know from our experience is that intelligent agents can produce information, and indeed do produce information, in a digital or typographic form, the form of information that we find in the DNA molecule, functional digital information. Whenever we see information and we trace it back to its source, whether we find it in a section of software code or a paragraph in a book or in a hieroglyphic inscription, we always find that a mind played a role in generating that information.
Don't be fooled by the hype. Materialists are further from explaining the origin of life than ever before, yet they still refuse to consider the only observable source known to create information code, an intelligent designing mind. We are not materialists. We see the human soul. We experience love. We live with purpose. We fight for justice. We are the quiet majority, and we will be quiet no longer.
Rachel, I'm trying to help you. You went to Warwick and they taught you that it's easy to make life, that the first living cell was just no big deal. Get the chemicals together and they'll do it on their own. Rachel, then you went on to major in finance. I think I'd like you to look at what happened to you. This is what they call getting suckered in the finance world, okay? You should ask for your money back. That's what I'd recommend. Come on, visit Dinosaur Adventureland, and we can help you understand the real truth and get you to know the real God of the universe, the intelligent designer who behind all this stuff. We know him personally. Known him for 50 years. I'd like you to know him too. You're not my enemy. Now you keep making videos about my book and complaining that I'm lying. That's a pretty serious thing to accuse somebody of lying. I mean, the Bible says thou shalt not bear false witness. I think you're bearing false witness, Rachel, and I'd like to help you. I'd like to see you get to know Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. And those who are commenting on your channel, I'll be glad to debate any of them or just take their phone call and talk to them. If you really think I've lied, I think you should give some specifics. I try to be very careful. I show right from the textbooks where they are teaching things that have been proven wrong a long time ago. I think you should stop. If you have any real evidence for evolution or the origin of life or any animal ever producing something other than its kind, I'd like to see that. I defy you to supply that. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Come visit Dinosaur Adventureland. Any questions out of the room on this topic tonight? So check out some more James Tour's videos, Rachel. He can really get you straightened out on the stuff you got brainwashed when you went to Warwick. See you later. Bye.